to Enlightened World Network. Dr. Ruth Anderson and Teri Angel here for a meditation a day. Today we are doing what we call meditation excavation, where Teri and I will just sit here and meditate, and we invite you to join us. And we just share with you the messages that Spirit is sharing with us. And there's always something. So we're glad you're here. And Teri Angel, I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you, Ruth. It's good to be here.
You ready to start?
Let's do this.
Okay,
Let's get this
friends.
meditation going. So we begin by connecting in with our spirit guides, our higher self, and we do that with the breath. So just breathe a deep breath into your lungs. Watch it flow into your heart center. And release that breath slowly and gently, slowing down everything right now and being very present in this moment. And as you take your next breath in, I'm going to invite the angels to join us, inviting in and invoking the energy of Archangel Raphael, our angel of healing. Raphael comes in with the energy of fire, with air. So you might feel a breeze, you might feel a rustle or a touch. And it feels like he's here today on a mission to do some healing. So welcome, Raphael. And then we invite in Archangel Michael, who is the angel of fire and always stirs things up to a higher level. He is our protector, our guide, and he's going to ensure that only love and light is welcome in here, into this arena where we are today. We invite Archangel Gabriel, the angel of water. And water cleanses, refreshes, nourishes. And that's what Gabriel brings to the table, is some clarity for us. And then we ask Archangel Uriel, the angel of earth, to help us to ground our energy into the earth plane. So with that breath in, see it going down the length of your body, all the way down out the bottom of your feet, and connect in with Mama Gaia. Just go right to that core of earth. Hold on to a crystal that's there, that's the very center of earth. And pull that energy back up to your heart space. I'm going to tether to the earth plane because it feels like we're going up, up, up today. And that's what we're doing with the next breath. We're going up and out, inviting in all of divinity to join in with us, connecting in with the Creator, with Christ, with Divine Mother, masters and angels, spirit guides and loved ones. And let's pull that energy down into our heart, connecting together the earth energy, the ethereal energy, and just sit in that presence. Just allow yourself to be immersed in love. And as you take a moment to fully connect, just ask the question, what would you like me to know right now during this meditation? What needs to come forth for me to think about, to dwell on, to open up to? And let's just take a moment to do that as Ruth and I tune in and listen and see where they want us to go with this meditation.
Thank you, Teri. Teri, they're taking us somewhere I don't think we've ever been before, which is the Garden of Eden.
beginnings.
Mhm.
That's what I hear. And it's so funny. I play birds chirping on my morning show. It's a sound bite that Restream offers. And as I was calling in the spirits and the divine, a little bird started chirping outside. And I'm thinking, did I turn on the sound bite? Because it sounded exactly like it. And then you said we're in the garden. So it made perfect sense that the birds would be out there chirping. And yes, I believe there were birds in the Garden of Eden.
I believe there were all kinds of animals from what I'm seeing. Before the fall, I think they want to explain the fall to us. And if you go with the story that Adam and Eve, well, first there was Adam, he was lonely. God created Eve for companionship. And the folklore of it is that God said, eat anything in the garden, but just don't touch the apple. And of course, then Eve, took a bite of the apple, and then they would call that the fall of mankind. The snake, representing darkness, Satan, the devil, however you want to see it, coerced her. But they're taking us to the space, the time before that.
I'm hearing the time of innocence.
Harry, if you look at Adam and Eve, they are as ethereal as they are in human form. Not that they weren't fully formed, not that they weren't fully thought out, but they were equally ethereal as human. Okay, interesting. I wonder if that act, if you will, of choosing to break from the creator, then put humans more into the physical realm rather than that quasi-ethereal physical realm. Teri, did you get any kind of information about that?
I'm just observing right now, and there seems to be a lot of curiosity going on, a lot of questioning, the newness, freshness, like what wanting to touch and feel everything. That's what I'm seeing. And we always think that, it was this deliberate act of separation, but it feels more like just curiosity. What if? What would happen if? So I'm not sure that it was such an act of defiance as it was of just wanting to explore everything that was available.
So it's just an interesting thought. Why would a parent put something in the room and say, don't touch it? Nope, nope,
Mm-hmm.
nope, don't touch it. It's not child proofing at all.
Right. Definitely.
Because we know the more attention we draw to something, then the more a child is curious about it, wants to
Mm-hmm.
touch it, wants to explore it, wants to know it.
Yeah, it's like anything in our life. What we focus on expands. So if the focus was placed on that one thing, that's what's going to be foremost in our minds. It is an interesting aspect of that.
Well, and Jesus came, well, interesting. So Jesus in physical came well after Adam and Eve, because if they were the very first man and woman, Jesus came well after that. I can't believe it was just that God wasn't good at parenting because he'd not had kids before. It's just like, it's, was it a predestined plan that I'm gonna, well, I mean, it's all figurative, right? I'm gonna put the apple in there, tell them not to do it. Of course, they're gonna do it, and then we're gonna have to have some reason to bring in a savior. Was it all a plan way, way, way back before, ever?
Or is it like the quantum theory? There are so many outcomes to the same situation. She could have made a different choice, and there could be the whole whatever happened after that without the fall. There's just so many different ways of looking at situations and seeing the outcomes. This is one that we were told about, but what if there were others? We know that there's other galaxies, there's other dimensions. So it feels like this is just to teach us. That's what I'm getting. It was a lesson for us to look at.
Well, it's interesting because they've shown me in other meditations, knowing Christ's energy before the earth was even really formed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like Christ was an afterthought. Where did the story of Adam and Eve come from? It was told to people who wrote it down, but where did that story ever come from?
Right. How do we know that that was what happened? Because it was a lot of years before there were other people even on the planet. So there were no witnesses to it.
Right. Only two. Yeah, odd. And neither one is here.
Right.
So was it just a fable?
Or as our friend Deb says, was it a metaphor?
So let's go with the metaphor theory. The apple by itself? I don't know if the apple by itself was the issue. Was the issue the fact that the snake coerced her?
The temptation.
Right. I mean, it could have been a plum, it could have been a watermelon, it could have been anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. The fruit is neutral.
Right.
It has no power. And that's how our experiences are. Experiences are neutral. We assign them a value if they're a good experience, a bad one, if there's things attached to it from our past. But they had no past. This was a newness, a new beginning. So that apple, even though they were told that was off limits, it really had no value. Yeah, I think it was the act itself, just like with us today. You know, we act, react, respond according to our beliefs. So is this about belief and trust and faith?
If you go with the theory that that act separated us from the creator, then you need some way to reconnect with the creator, which is, I'm guessing, where Christ came in. Although I can't go with, I don't know. I mean, I adore Christ, so that's not the question. But I don't believe that there were no godly people before Christ came in, that no one could connect with God before Christ came in, because clearly, let's go with Noah's Ark. Noah was a man of God. He was connected with God. So I don't know that we need a mediator to be in relationship with God.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Then they're also bringing in free will. I mean, obviously, their acts in the garden were definitely a sign of man having free will. And free will can sometimes do things that make you feel further from the Creator or help you feel more in one with the Creator. I don't know whose voice it is I'm hearing, but they're going, but you're missing the point about obedience. The greatest commandment, love one another. If we are following God's commandments, are we being obedient? It's just so interesting. They just keep dropping these little things in my head to say out loud.
Yeah, well, it's also it's a thing of respect. So if you hear a message such as don't eat the apple, then what do you do with that message? Do you doubt that you heard it right? And maybe that's what happened. Did I really hear don't, or did I hear eat the apple? So there's just so much to tearing that apart and looking at it and seeing what could possibly be the meaning behind this story that we've been told and relating it back to us today. Sometimes we hear a message and we doubt that we heard it right. And so we waver back and forth and make a choice because we have that free will to do so. And sometimes we think we're acting the way that we heard to do something. So it's opening up and clearly communicating and receiving those messages, tuning into them. That's the important thing.
And what I'm hearing is that our acts, how we treat others, is a demonstration of our love for the Creator. Interesting. So my brain went to, okay, so what happened to Adam and Eve afterwards? Um, and then I saw like this other male and female off to the side saying, okay, let us try. Like maybe we would do it differently. And I heard every man will fail. Like, it doesn't matter how many teams are waiting off on the wings to come in and try it. Eventually, all would go for the apple.
Mm-hmm. Which goes back to your original question, was it meant to be?
Right. Was it
Was
going
it
to
meant
happen?
to was it meant to play out this way?
I don't believe that God pulled back his favor. I think the act made Adam and Eve feel separate from God. Not that God pulled away. That's just my blasphemous thinking. I don't think God pulled away.
And I think you're right, because if you look at history and all the recorded things throughout the scriptures, all scriptures, God is there. And he worked through many of these important figures that we have in our history books and the holy books. He worked through Moses, Abraham, David, all of them who heard God very clearly. No, I don't think he pulled away at all.
If God had pulled away, why would he have given Christ? You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
why? But it's the perceived isolation from the Creator. And we go through that every day.
Mm-hmm.
But it's perceived. I don't know that it's real. I know we're on the right track. There's one of the angels just like clapped his hands like, yep, okay, okay, come on, keep going. Okay, so now they're bringing nature into it. The oceans, the plants, the trees, the animals, air, clean air, water. All of those I'm hearing are gifts from the Creator as reminders. I love you. It's so funny, Teri, because as you know, I've got this table full of orchids here right next to me. I can feel their energy. They're like, yay. But it's just a reminder that all of nature around us is that testament from the Creator.
It is. Yeah, every living thing, we can just see God's hand in it. The animals, the birds, just looking at how they don't stress, they don't worry. They know that they were created by love, and they just live. They don't just exist. They really live while they're alive here on earth. Even your orchids.
Even my orchids. What an interesting. I asked if that was all, and they said yes.
Mhm.
What an interesting path to go down.
We just never know when we come on here. That's the beauty of it. We don't have to know. The spirit takes us where they want us to go.
I think part of this is really about free will, how either it can be used to increase our perceived isolation from the Creator, or it can be used to help us understand our oneness with the Creator. That I wonder if that isn't what free will is really all about.
Yeah, because we learn with each experience, each choice that we make. It's another lesson for us. If we didn't have free will, then we wouldn't have all of that growth from the lessons.
Right. Carrie, just curious, what was your blog about last night?
What was the blog about? It was about forgiveness. It's called The Greatest of These is Love. And let me just see, the quote I thought was really beautiful. To love means loving the unlovable. To forgive means pardoning the unpardonable. Faith means believing the unbelievable. And hope means hoping when everything seems hopeless.
Mm.
Yeah. So just exploring how we live in the world. We have choices. We have that free will to focus on what we perceive as things going wrong in the world or how we see others showing up to shine a light. And whatever we focus on, that's going to expand. Just like when we looked at Eve looking at the apple, whatever you focus on, that's what's going to be foremost. And sometimes we go down those rabbit holes and we explore and we take the temptation at times. And then we learn from that. Life isn't perfect and we're not perfect. So it's all a big learning experience. I feel like Earth is our school. We're here to grasp onto whatever it is that we decided we're going to come here and look at and grow from and have those experiences. I know mine's been trust.
Yeah.
A lot of people say that it's all about trusting and learning how to get back into that faith and trust and belief.
So, Teri, would you say that the temptation, because there's a perceived wrongness about whatever that is, would you think that the temptation is always something that pulls us further away from the creator? Well, not that we're that perceived isolation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because think about when you've made a decision that you're not happy about, it didn't go right for you the way you thought it might, then there's all kinds of emotions that come up. We beat ourselves up sometimes because we didn't do what maybe somebody had said we should, or that there's that I told you so aspect, and then we get embarrassed or feel shame. So yeah, anytime that we make that that free will decision, then we have the consequences of it. And I think that's a big lesson from the Adam and Eve experience. There were consequences. And I don't think that it was God taking himself out of the equation and saying, I'm not going to be with you anymore because you ate the apple. It just, I believe it's just that lesson of how am I feeling about what I did or what I thought or what I said. It's all about growth. The whole experience here is our spiritual growth. And when we look at the fact that we're all in it together, we're not really separate. We just see ourselves as separate. And so what I'm feeling, somebody else is feeling, or what I'm doing, somebody else is doing. And it's just tearing down that illusion of the separation. So I guess that could be a real question too. Was this experience that we were told about an example for us to see how to get back to that oneness again and not feel like we are separate, not go into the judgment about anything? Because we judge Eve. We do. We talk about how she was the one that was tempted. She was the one that made everything go awry. So we hold that judgment toward her. And if we just release that, it was just an experience.
Well, and I liked what you said about, was this just a way of teaching us how to come back into that oneness with God? That
Mhm.
had nobody ever stepped in their own minds, thought that they stepped away from God, there would be no reason to return to
Mhm.
God.
Right.
So it's kind of like a safety kit. It's like if you have a fire in your, if your body catches fire, stop, drop, and roll, right? If you
Right.
feel like you're isolated from God, do this.
Mhm.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Very interesting. All these lessons. And we never know when they're going to come or where they're going to come from. It's just being open to it, listening, opening up and listening. That's the main thing. Every night now when I sit with the angels, they give the message for us all to learn from, but then they give some inspiration and they're calling it the angel's whisper. I'd like to read the one that came through last night from the angels because to me, it just really wraps this up of what we've been talking about. So they said to love, forgive, believe, and hope in these extraordinary ways is to walk hand in hand with the divine. It is to become an instrument of peace, a channel of light, and a bearer of grace. Today, we invite you to answer this call: love deeper, forgive freer, believe stronger, and hope brighter. For in doing so, you not only transform your life, but also become a beacon of divine love in a world that needs it more than ever. May you be blessed with the strength to love, the grace to forgive, the courage to believe, and the light to hope always. And that really does just sum up what we've, that rabbit hole we went down to look at temptation and judgment and forgiveness and hope. It's like, did Adam and Eve lose hope when that happened? Did they? Because I don't think God said, I'm disappointed in you. I think they felt that
Right.
they had somehow let God down.
They were naked and ashamed.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. So getting back to hope in a world that right now just kind of feels like all hope is lost. So
Right. So
love deeper.
rather than vilifying, not that I do, but some folks might, rather than vilifying Adam and Eve for what happened, being grateful because they taught us.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime we feel isolated from the Creator, it's in our heads. It's not a reality, it's in our heads. Hmm. Okay, then.
Beautiful, beautiful messages today.
Well, thank you, Teri.
You're welcome. I was just asking if there was anything else, and that was it. Listen to your heart, because your head will tell you something totally different, that you're wrong or that you're separate. But your heart will always bring you back to love.
Cool. Thank you. All right, friends, thank you for being here as we continue to explore messages from Spirit. So take good care. God bless. We'll see you soon.
Bye, everyone.